All right, man, peace. So, for those of you brothers that follow boxing, you know that there is a major bout, an extremely pivotal boxing match that is going to be aired tomorrow night. A battle that's going to be waged between Mr. Robert Easter Jr. and Mikey Garcia. For those of you brothers that do follow boxing, you know that Robert Easter Jr. is one of the up-and-coming rising stars in boxing. He's currently the WBC World Lightweight title holder. And Mikey Garcia, we know, for the past 6 or 7 years has been considered one of the most skilled boxers in the entire sport. And he's constantly on the pound-for-pound list of best boxers in the entire sport. And we're going to learn a lot about both fighters tomorrow night, because I do believe that it's going to be the toughest battle of both of these fighters' careers. I truly believe that. Why is that? Because Robert Easter is extremely talented, but he's a relative neophyte in regards to high-level boxing. And he's going to have a chance to show how truly talented he is against Mr. Mikey Garcia, who I expect to show Robert Easter wrinkles that he's never seen before. On the part of Mr. Mikey Garcia, I seriously doubt if he's ever faced a fighter with the dimensions and a lot of the problems, technically, that he's going to face with Robert Easter. So if Mikey Garcia is able to win this bout tomorrow night and take Robert Easter's WBC title from him, it would only add greater esteem to Mikey Garcia, and it would help to amplify his overall image in the sport. And of course, he's going to climb the pound-for-pound rankings. Supposedly, Mikey Garcia states that he also wants to challenge Errol Spence somewhere in the near future. Please keep in mind that Errol Spence fights at the 147-pound weight division, and Errol Spence is considered a big welterweight, meaning what? He could easily move up to 154. Mikey Garcia right now is fighting at 135. So if he indeed truly intends to challenge himself in that way, of course, he's going to add even greater esteem to himself. But I think that it would be more of an attempt to fight a no-lose mega fight, knowing that if he does lose to Errol Spence, everyone's going to say, well, Errol was the bigger man anyway. Mikey challenged himself. And if he does win, automatically he becomes considered the number one fighter in the sport, bar none. But just getting back to this fight, I've seen Robert Easter fight about 4 times. Very naturally talented, but he does have a lot of flaws in his game. Oftentimes he does not use his height enough. Oftentimes he smothers his own punches. What does that mean? That means that when you have a fighter like a Robert Easter who has very long arms, oftentimes he does not understand the proper distance from which to throw his punches against his opponent, especially if his opponent is on the ropes. Sometimes he gets a little bit too overly eager to get the knockout, and that leads to him making mistakes. And I suspect that Mikey Garcia, who has a very high boxing IQ, is going to try to ensnare him, knowing what many of his mistakes are. Because if I can see them, I'm sure that Mikey Garcia and his brain trust, that being his older brother, who's his trainer, as well as his father, who's also his trainer, I'm sure that they can see them. So I expect this fight to be very good. I believe that if I'm in Robert Easter's corner, I'm telling him to take his time, use his footwork, and especially utilize the jab on Mikey Garcia. Because Robert Easter's 5'11", Mikey Garcia is 5'6". Use your height. Make sure you keep your chin down. Mikey is going to try to come over the top of your jab with his own right hand. He's going to try to step in once he moves his head to get out of the way of your jab, and he's going to try to hit you with the overhand right. Make sure you keep your chin down. Oftentimes, Robert Easter keeps his chin up when he steps in with his jab. What Robert Easter does very well, he does go to the body, which oftentimes is a problem for tall fighters. They tend to not go to the body. Robert Easter does. And that's something that he's going to have to do in this fight. But I think that he should more utilize his lead left jab to the body than trying to get inside early, because Mikey Garcia has an extreme amount of power in both hands. For those of you who don't believe me, all you have to do is ask Adrian Broner, who he was able to defeat in a rather dominating fashion a few months ago. It was very obvious to me when I watched that fight that Adrian Broner felt Mikey Garcia's power, and he was not willing to open up after about the second or third round, because he knew that what was coming back had the potential to embarrass him. Now, Adrian Broner, even though oftentimes he is the subject of a high amount of scrutiny and criticism and skepticism because of some of his personality flaws, he's extremely tough and tough-minded. He never gives up in the fight. Sometimes he'll give up on believing that he can defeat his opponent, especially if his opponent is very busy and throwing hard shots. But Adrian never gives up. And the reason why I bring up that fight is because that's the connection between Mikey Garcia and Robert Easter. Adrian Broner is viewed as a quote-unquote proverbial older brother to Robert Easter. And as I'm very fond of citing, there's a biblical passage in the book of Amos, the 3rd chapter, that tells us that can two men walk together unless they be in agreement? Meaning what? Like seeketh like. Some of the flaws that we see in Adrian Broner may show up in Robert Easter's psyche, should he be put in the same predicament as Adrian Broner. I want to see what happens to Mr. Robert Easter if Mikey Garcia is able to get him into precarious situations. Is he going to shell up, or is he going to continue to throw? I suspect that Robert Easter will continue to throw. The best fight that I've ever seen Robert Easter Jr. in was his bout against a fighter from Ghana by the name of Richard Comey. It was the fight that Robert Easter was able to win to receive the WBC championship title in the first place. Great fight that went back and forth. Both fighters got knockdowns, and I used that for the baseline for what we will probably see tomorrow night against Mikey Garcia, or between Robert Easter Jr. and Mikey Garcia, because Mikey Garcia is a dog. There's no doubt about that. He has great chin, great heart, very good conditioning, and he's able to execute his fight plan extremely well, as we can see from the fact that he's never lost. So once again, it's going to be very interesting for me to see exactly what the game plan is on the Robert Easter side. He's being trained by Kevin Cunningham. Kevin Cunningham, for those of you brothers that follow boxing, you'll know that he's been Devin Alexander's main trainer. And Devin Alexander is a former junior welterweight title holder. I believe he also had a welterweight title for a short period of time. I can't quite remember. If I'm wrong about that, one of you brothers can correct me. Adrian Broner has recently started to affiliate with Kevin Cunningham, and so has Robert Easter. That's why I say that I suspect that we'll see some of the same traits in Robert Easter should he get into very intense trouble against Mikey Garcia that Adrian Broner will normally do. Some of the same tactics or lack thereof. One of the main barometers for evaluating a great fighter is what he does during times of adversity. Does he stick to his game plan? Does he adapt? Or does he fold up? Once again, I think that Robert Easter, it would do him very well. It would suit him very well to utilize the jab early on in the fight. Maybe the first 4 or 5 rounds, especially to the body. Try to jab Mikey Garcia to the body in an attempt to wear him down, because believe me, Mikey Garcia will be trying to pursue him throughout the fight, especially if Robert Easter is very conservative in his punch output and he shows that he's not going to be aggressive enough to get sucked into many of Mikey's attempts at traps, because Mikey will try to trap him. Expect Mikey Garcia to utilize a lot of possum tricks, meaning he'll try to hide or try to act as if he's not aggressive or he's not much of a threat, trying to lure Robert in, see if he can catch him with something, especially a right uppercut. Robert Easter Jr. also has a great right uppercut. So if Mikey does try to pursue him, expect Robert Easter to step back and throw that right uppercut and try to catch Mikey on the chin with it. These are things that we can look for. But overall, I do believe that Mikey Garcia will win this fight. I think that he's going to stop Robert in 10 rounds. I don't think that Robert is going to be able to deal with the intensity that Mikey Garcia is going to bring to the table. I don't think that he's going to be able to deal with the power that Mikey's going to bring to the table. Please keep in mind that, once again, Mikey Garcia fought Adrian Broner at 140, which is not even a natural weight class for him, and pretty much had Adrian on the run for most of the fight. Mikey comes out of the Robert Garcia camp out there in Oxnard, California. He's made his bones sparring fighters like Marcos Maidana and Brandon Rios, who both state that he hits extremely hard. And this is when he was campaigning at 126 and 130 and 135 before he had his layoff and came back looking bigger and stronger. So I expect Robert Easter to do his best. If he does win, it'll be a 12-round decision. I certainly don't see him stopping Mikey, but I mean, hey, you never know. It wouldn't absolutely shock me because, as I've stated, Robert Easter is very, very talented. I just need to see some wrinkles here. And going against a top-level fighter like Mikey Garcia is going to force him to reveal what his depth of character is and what his depth of skill set is. That fight against Richard Commey showed me a lot on both sides of the spectrum. Both great things. He showed great heart. He showed great power, good speed, but he also showed me that he can be suckered into some things, that he has some technical issues. And we see that a lot with Mike Stafford fighters. Sometimes they can be a little bit too aggressive. And to be quite frank with you, it does not seem like that stable of fighters is extremely intelligent. They don't seem like they have much in the way of boxing IQ. Adrian Broner, if Adrian Broner is the top fighter in your stable, we know that he's certainly not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But let's see what this article here states. It says, Robert Easter Jr. confident, well prepared for Mikey Garcia unification fight. Lightweight world title holder Robert Easter Jr. is certainly in the minority of those with an opinion on his upcoming fight, but he didn't flinch when asked how his much anticipated unification bout with Mikey Garcia is going to go. I feel like this is going to be easy for me, Easter said. No, you don't, brother. Don't lie. You don't think this fight's going to be easy. You're just talking shit right now. You saw the fight that Mikey Garcia had with your boy Adrian. You saw how he walked right through him. You know this is going to be a difficult fight. Even if you win, this fight is not going to be easy. Unless you catch Mikey with the perfect punch, which is always possible, but I doubt it. I'm going to win this fight. This is what Robert Easter is saying. I'm going to win this fight. I'm too tall and I'm too fast and I got power. Yes, you have all those things. But when you get into the ring with an A-class fighter, expect Mikey Garcia to take at least 2 of those 3 attributes away from you. So when you're in a top-level championship bout like this, it's going to come down to the wrinkles. It's going to come down to boxing IQ. You can't just go into the ring saying, I'm bigger, faster, stronger. Many fighters went into the ring against Floyd Mayweather with that attitude, and I'm not calling Mikey Garcia Floyd Mayweather. But when you're talking about top-notch fighters, it's going to come down to how do you adapt. I want to see how this fight is going after about round 6 or 7. That's going to tell me a lot. If Easter still looks strong after 6 or 7, and he's utilized the game plan that I've given him, jab to the body, keep his chin down, pivot, make sure that you hold when Mikey's getting too close. Be cognizant of the fact that you have to snap your jab back because Garcia is going to be looking to come over the top with the right-hand counter to try to hurt you. Garcia loves to come with that strong left hook to the body. So you make sure that you keep your right elbow tucked, prepared to block that left hook to the body. If you do those things, you'll have a good chance. It's going to be very difficult for Mikey to get his jab off in this fight because Easter is going to have the advantage in reach. As long as he uses it, as long as he uses what he has as an advantage, that being his height, he should be okay if he sticks to a good game plan. So we'll find out. When I apply those things along with my game plan and being patient, I can't be beat. Well, we'll see, bro. You haven't fought good enough fighters to say that yet. I saw you against, I believe the brother's name is Diego Luna. A couple of months ago, you looked very sloppy. You looked overly aggressive. You were smothering your own shots, and he was catching you. I think that you probably would have been able to out-decision him because of your advantages and your dimensions, but who knows? When told of Easter's comments, Garcia chuckled and declared it would be an easy fight for him only if Garcia broke both his hands. In other words, Mikey Garcia is saying, I'm going to have no problem landing on this guy. Let me say this. If Easter is not defensively responsible, if Mikey's able to land flush shots on him early, it could be a devastating stoppage for Robert Easter. And when I say for Robert Easter, I mean he'll be the victim of one because Mikey Garcia hits very hard. Easter 21-0 with 14 KOs has yet to be beaten, but neither has Garcia, who's 38-0 with 30 KOs, who is universally regarded as one of the top handful of boxers in the world pound for pound. They will put those perfect records and their 135-pound belts on the line on Saturday. Oh, yeah, that's right. Mikey also is currently a 135-pound belt holder as well. At the Staples Center in Los Angeles, where Garcia, a Southern California native, will be the big crowd favorite for his first hometown fight since a 2011 undercard appearance, well before he won the first of his titles in 4 weight divisions. Easter may think the fight will be easy for him, but in preparation, he acted as though it would be a serious challenge, of course, because he knows what he's facing. Robert Easter knows what he's facing. This is going to be by far the toughest matchup on paper of his career. If he's able to make it look easy, he automatically vaults himself into conversation for the top 10 pound for pound. No doubt about it. He'll probably land on many people's lists in the bottom half of that top 10 pound for pound list if he's able to dominate a Mikey Garcia, no doubt. But anyway, Easter may think the fight will be easy for him, but in preparation, he acted as though it would be a serious challenge. On paper, his 4th title defense shapes up as his toughest fight. Easter left the comforts of his hometown of Toledo, Ohio, to train for the first time under the guidance of the tremendously respected trainer Kevin Cunningham, who earlier this year welcomed Easter's close friend, Adrian Broner, to his West Palm Beach, Florida gym. Broner gave Cunningham his seal of approval, and Easter made the change. He said the training camp for the fight with Garcia has a different focus than usual. There are plenty of distractions training back home, Easter said. Too comfortable. Coach Kev welcomed me to his program with open arms. This is a big fight, different focus. So I chose to get out of town. All that translates to is mentally, he's weak and susceptible to random vagina and going out to the club and being around silly Negroes every Friday and Saturday night. That's all that means. So he had to take himself out of that environment and head on over to Florida to train with Kevin Cunningham. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. If he understands that those are his weaknesses, if he's focused on this fight, good. Oftentimes, fighters don't want to transplant for their fight camp until after they've lost. So if he has enough foresight to understand the possible profundity of knowing that he has to make sure that he takes his career seriously before he loses, great for him. So he packed his bags and went to train with Cunningham rather than longtime trainer Mike Stafford. Kevin Cunningham stayed on me every day. We focused on my skills, using my advantages, and you'll see it all on Saturday. I hope so, brother. I hope that you use your advantages. Use what you have. Because when it comes to big fight experience, you're going to see the difference. It'll be very interesting for me to see how Mikey Garcia is able to overcome the height differential as well as the reach differential. I'm going to learn a lot about Mikey as well. Kevin Cunningham stayed on me every day. We focus on my skills, using my advantages, and you'll see it all on Saturday, Easter said. We have a game plan, but we're professionals in there. We both know we'll have to make adjustments as the fight goes on. I'm going to fight my fight and leave it all in the ring. My focus is 100% on Mikey Garcia Saturday night. Coach Cunningham had me really working on the skills that I hadn't been using as much in past fights. That's another shot at Mike Stafford. A lot of these fighters, they start taking shots at Mike Stafford, man. I remember a couple of years ago, Floyd Mayweather Sr. said that Mike Stafford can't train for shit. I believe it was after Adrian Broner lost to Marcos Maidana. So it was probably like late 2013, early 2014 when Floyd Mayweather Sr., he's talking about Mike Stafford. He said something like, that trainer over there, he can't train for shit. Floyd Sr. always sound like he's constipated when he's talking, don't he? Sound like he's constipated with strep throat. Let's see. I'm going to fight my fight and leave it all in the ring. My focus is 100% on Mikey Garcia Saturday night. Coach Cunningham had me really working on the skills that I hadn't been using as much in past fights. He helped me put together a great game plan that focuses on the advantages I have. In other words, I suspect that Kevin Cunningham has been telling him the same things that I've been saying. Use your jab. Use your reach. Don't smother your shots. That's the only way that he can reach you is if you smother your shots, because he wants to counter you when you're throwing. Make sure that you stay outside of his jab. Make sure that you keep your chin down so you don't get caught with anything crazy like an overhand right. And you should be okay. Although Easter is a decided underdog, he has a lot going for him in his fight. He's quicker. I don't know if he's quicker. He may be faster, at least with his feet. I've noticed a discernible difference in Mikey Garcia's foot speed since he came back from that layoff. So that may tell. That may be a major difference, especially if Easter decides to use his feet, which he has not been doing his last couple of fights. If he uses his footwork like he did against Kami and pivots, should be okay, but we'll see. So he's quicker, he's younger. Easter's 27, Garcia's 30. That doesn't make a difference when you have fighters both in their late 20s. 30 basically is still in your physical prime. He's taller. Easter's 5'11", Garcia's 5'6". He has a longer reach, 76 inches to 68 inches. That's the biggest difference right there, especially in combination with the height differential. Will Easter use those advantages, or will he get suckered into a firefight? I saw the weigh-in. Mikey Garcia was staring at him real hard. You very rarely see Mikey Garcia utilize those type of tactics. That tells me that he's trying to see if he can bring out the machismo aspect in Easter and sucker him into a firefight, because he knows that if Easter is under control, if he boxes in a controlled way, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to land shots with that difference in reach. So Mikey is smart enough to know, let me see if I can pull a little bit of machismo energy out of him and get him to trade shots with me, so maybe I can catch him with something. And he had a deeper amateur background. Well, it's difficult for me to believe that Robert Easter is going to have an advantage over Mikey Garcia because supposedly he has a deeper amateur background, quote unquote. Now, he may have fought more amateur fights than a Mikey Garcia, but please understand that Mikey Garcia comes from a boxing family. His brother, who's also his co-trainer, Robert Garcia, was a former world champion at 130. His father is one of the top trainers in the sport. So he's been around boxing his whole life. That's in his blood. It's not so much about how many amateur fights you've had. Floyd Mayweather, I don't even believe he had 100 amateur fights. You have certain fighters out here like Lomachenko who's had well over 400 fights in the amateurs. Floyd Mayweather didn't even have 100. But he was raised up in it. So I don't think that that's going to make a difference. The biggest difference is going to be whether or not Easter uses his height and reach advantages properly. One reason for Easter's underdog status is that he hasn't faced the caliber of names Garcia has. But there's also the issue of his underwhelming performance in a debatable split decision win over former junior lightweight world titleist Javier Fortuna, who failed to make weight in January. Easter chalked that effort up to a bad night. I believe I fought that fight wrong and made it tougher on myself, he said. Instead of using my reach and my ability to box, I sort of smothered my punches. Well, that happens a lot when you get overly aggressive. But when I fight, I move on from it. We learn from it as well as every fight. Garcia said Easter's underdog status is because he's less known than Garcia. In other words, what is Mikey Garcia saying? The only reason why Robert Easter is an underdog for this fight is because people don't know him like they know me. So in other words, Mikey's saying this person has a great chance to beat me. Mikey knows what he's getting in there with. It's going to be a great fight. I think either Robert Easter will win by decision or Mikey will stop him in 9 or 10 rounds. Right now, I'm leaning towards Mikey Garcia stopping Robert in rounds 9 or 10. He said he also puts little stock in his performance against Fortuna and that he expects to see Easter at his best. So do I. I've seen the fight, and believe it or not, Javier Fortuna has a weird, awkward style that makes everybody have problems. I agree with that, Garcia said. He'll give problems to anybody, no matter height or reach. Javier Fortuna is tricky, experienced, a former champion. Robert Easter Jr. sometimes gives up those height and reach advantages on his own because he's a fighter, because he likes to fight and exchange punches and looks for a knockout. In other words, Mikey Garcia is saying that I'm going to use his over-aggressiveness against him. Once again, if Robert Easter wants to leave this fight and guarantee himself that he will still be the WBC lightweight champion, he better do what I said. Make sure he jabs that boy to the body Goes to the body, clinches, uses footwork, pivots, keeps his chin down, especially in the first 6 rounds. And if you see Mikey weakening, proceed with caution. Step it up a little bit, but proceed with caution because he could be playing possum. But anyway, Robert Easter Jr. sometimes gives up those height and reach advantages on his own because he's a fighter, because he likes to fight and exchange punches and looks for a knockout. And that's part of the reason why Fortuna had some success in a really difficult fight. But overall, I still felt that Robert won and did enough to win that fight. Cunningham, who guided Corey Spinks to the undisputed welterweight world title, and Devin Alexander to titles in 2 weight classes, also trains Broner and Jr. lightweight world titleist Gervonta Davis. He's happy to have Easter with him now. He left no stone unturned. He sacrificed everything. Cunningham set up Easter's effort in training camp. He did everything that was asked of him, and he's a talented guy. He's naturally talented. Yes, he is naturally talented. I saw that talent in his fight against Richard Kami. That was one of the best world title fights that I had seen in a very long time, where both fighters were physically in their prime, very talented, and you could tell they both wanted it really bad. Hopefully they can fight a rematch sometime in the near future should Robert Easter win this fight. Says he's been a pleasure to work with. Robert understands what he needs to do, the adjustments that he needs to make. Cunningham said he's got the ability and the skill to pick it up, going back, pick it up. He's really looking sharp, and I just think that he's really going to put on a show come Saturday. Well, we'll see. Garcia won a junior welterweight world title from Sergey Lipnitz in his last fight in February. Okay, so it was at 140 that he got that title against Sergey, but gave up the belt in order to return to make his first defense of his lightweight belt against Easter. It not only gives Garcia the first opportunity of his career for a unification fight, but it does the same for Easter, who campaigned hard to get Garcia in the ring with him. Big fights like these are important to me, Easter said. Champion versus champion speaks loudly about who we are as men. I agree. And Robert Easter Jr. is also smart enough to understand that if he's able to defeat Mikey Garcia, hand him his first loss, that also is going to show in how much his overall fight purses are going to be raised exponentially because of how he's able to defeat Mikey Garcia. So he knows this is a big, pivotal fight for him. It's the 2 best guys out there fighting to decide who's the best in the weight class. While pound for pound king and lightweight world champion Vasily Lomachenko and his fans might disagree, Garcia Easter is a top-notch match and the first lightweight world title unification fight since Juan Manuel Marquez knocked out Juan Diaz in the 9th round to retain his world title and unify a vacant belt that was also on the line in the 2009 ESPN.com Fight of the Year. I remember that fight. I've been dreaming about fights like this since I was a little kid. Easter said it's finally here, and I'm going to show the world what Robert Easter Jr. is really made of. Well, we'll find out, brother. We will find out. Because let me say this, you're in there with a monster. That dude, Mikey Garcia, is a monster. In the 10-round co-feature, heavyweight contender Luis King Kong Ortiz, a Cuban native fighting out of Miami, Florida, will have his first fight since his brutal 10th-round KO loss to world titleist Deontay Wilder in March when he faces former title challenger Razvan Kojanu, who's 16-3 with 9 KOs, 31, a native of Romania fighting out of Burbank, California. In the opener of the triple-header, junior welterweight prospect Mario Barrios of San Antonio will fight Jose Roman of Garden Grove, California in a 10-rounder. Ain't nobody worried about all that shit. All right, this looks like this is the end of this article. Point being is this, we're going to find out a lot about both fighters tomorrow night. If Robert Easter Jr. wins, I would not call it a shocking upset or shocking victory, just because he is a very talented fighter and he has so many advantages. But I expect Mikey's class. I also expect his experience in big fights to show. And I think that he's going to wear Robert Easter Jr. down. But this is truly going to be a test of his mental stamina to see, number one, if his game plan works. Number two, if he's willing to stick to his game plan, if Mikey Garcia catches him with something hard early. And number three, if his game plan doesn't work, is he able to adjust and figure something else out that will allow him to win the fight? These are all things that we find out in big fights involving great fighters. But anyway, Peace.